it's Haley again. So, as amazing as being famous is, it also comes with some problems. The first one being Eric. Having a famous ex around is awkward. Secondly, it's all the unknowns that being in the public eye brought with it. For instance, I was currently backstage at my first mini show, terrified, because I was pretty sure someone just took a picture of me in an unzipped dress. I worriedly looked at Dean. Did you see who that was? Why would someone take those kind of pictures? Oh no, what if they sell them to the press? Dean gave me a reassuring look and said,
"Don't worry. I promise I'll definitely find out who did it. Now, please relax, as your performance is in any minute, and you wouldn't want to let this affect it, right?"
Then I watched him leave. What he said made sense. This was an important show for me and Phil, so I couldn't mess things up. When I was on the stage, I pushed all my worries to the side and concentrated on what I did best, singing my heart out. Afterward, we hung around and had a little fan meeting. It was crazy being around people that knew my name and wanted selfies with me. Phil was getting plenty of attention too. It seemed he was a hit with the fangirls. I heard them saying how handsome they thought he was, and so cool. Phil may have kept a straight face, but I knew he liked it really. I mean, come on, who wouldn't? Then, someone even shouted that Phil and I made a beautiful couple. Phil almost burst out laughing, and I just smiled shyly. Then one girl asked me if I had any plans besides singing. I didn't know how to answer, as I'd never thought about doing anything besides singing before.
"You should be a vlogger," one girl suggested. "Or you could be in movies,"
another said. Oh, that didn't sound too bad. Thinking about it, trying something new alongside my singing might help promote our music and increase my popularity. It was definitely something to consider, thanks to my awesome fans. Then, as luck would have it, I found out that a famous director was holding auditions for a supporting role in his project. It was a perfect chance for beginners like me to learn from these veteran actors. Besides, it wouldn't take much time, so I could still have time for music. So I immediately signed up to participate. The day of the casting arrived, and I was excited, but also really worried. The last time I'd attended an audition was during my freshman year of swing club. Wow, time sure does fly. I was sitting in the waiting room when I saw a familiar face sitting in the corner. It was Eric. He must have been trying out for a part too. Suddenly, our eyes met, but I immediately avoided his gaze. My heart began to skip a beat, and it wasn't due to nerves. It was down to seeing him. Even after all this time, he still had that effect on me. Sigh. Before I could decide whether I should go and say hi to him or not, a very hot guy walked over to me. I recognized him from a few hit movies and knew he was a big deal. He smiled at me and said,
"Are you Haley? As in, the singer?"
I nodded back, awestruck that this super famous guy knew who I was. He sat down next to me and asked me if I was worried about my audition. I told him I was a bit. So he started telling me about some of his previous auditions and experiences. At first, it was great hearing this stuff from a pro, but then he asked me if I wanted to hang out with him on the weekend. I started to feel a bit uncomfortable because of his flirty behaviors, but I didn't know how to politely say no. I tried to avoid his eyes while thinking of an excuse, and suddenly, I thought of Eric, so I glanced over in his direction, but he'd gone. Meanwhile, that actor guy started to move closer to me, wrapped his arm around my shoulder, and stroked my hair. I kind of started to panic. Then suddenly, I felt someone grabbing my hand and pulling me away. Turns out, it was Eric. What was he doing? Eric pulled me to the balcony at the end of the hallway. I glared at him. What was that for? I'm not yours to drag to places whenever you want. He replied,
"I don't like you chatting with other guys, especially not slimeballs like him."
I felt my heart beating faster, but I tried to keep my cool as I replied, You have no say in who I can and can't talk to. We're not even friends. Eric looked at me with sad eyes.
I'm so sorry, Haley. I don't want it to be like this. Please forgive me. I miss you.
This was so typical of Eric, winding me up before my audition. So I growled out, "Sorry is no use to me. You have no idea how much you hurt me." Unexpectedly, he replied,
I will break up with Clara. Well, no. The truth is, there was nothing between me and Clara in the first place.
"Ha! That sounds familiar. You must have said the same thing to Clara to be with her while you were still dating me, right?" I said, then started to walk off. He replied with a low voice,
Everything was forced by the company.
I stopped on the spot and looked at him, then angrily said, "Oh, you think I'll trust you again? I'm no longer the innocent girl who believes everything you say." After a moment of silence, he sighed, then told me everything. When he rose to fame and was working with Clara, she was always openly showing affection for him, even though Eric has told her to stop many times, and once she even confessed her feelings towards him. He rejected her immediately, as he was with me and didn't like her in that way. I rolled my eyes and said, "Yeah, right. If you really rejected her feelings right away, then things wouldn't be this way." Eric cut off my words.
Please just listen to me first.
Then he continued,
Clara didn't take the rejection well, so she posted our photo on Instagram and spread rumors with the press that we were dating. At the time, I was furious and wanted to correct the press, but Will stopped me. He even said that our dating rumors were getting a very good response from our fans, so he told me to go along with it.
I looked straight at him and said, "Okay, so there's nothing between the two of you, but you still chose to listen to the company and leave me without any explanation, right?" He said,
I'm so sorry, but they promised me that it'd only be until the duet with Clara was released. Besides, they even offered to help you become famous once it's done. That's why I endured it all. I did it for you.
Whoa, this whole thing was unbelievable. I didn't expect that company to be that bad, but thank God that it turned out there was really nothing between Eric and Clara, just as I suspected. So I said, "You didn't have to do that. I can stand up on my own." Then Eric smiled at me and held my hand.
Yep, I shouldn't worry so much, since my girl here is so talented. Haley, I messed up, but I did it with good intentions. Can you forgive me?
My feelings were really chaotic, surprised, happy, and guilty at the same time. As confusing as it all was, I knew that I still loved Eric. So with teary eyes, I nodded. Then he pulled me into his arms. Suddenly, I remembered one thing. I asked him, what about the bouquets? You sent me those purple peonies, right?" He shyly nodded.
Yes, they were from me, so you'd know I was thinking about you.
I squeezed him tight and whispered a thank you. I couldn't believe all this, as if I just got a huge weight off my shoulders now that everything has been resolved. After that, I did my audition. I'm not sure how well it went, as my mind was elsewhere. Afterward, Eric drove me to a secluded part of the beach, and we held hands and went for a walk on the sand. I felt so happy to see the old Eric again, the real him, the one I'd fallen in love with. So, you see, Eric and I got back together. But of course, we kept it a secret from the public. Only our close friends knew about it. I told Anna and Kurt over video call, and Anna cheered, but Kurt was a bit more skeptical and told me to be careful, as once a snake, always a snake. But I didn't think much about it, as me and Eric were in our own euphoria. Everything seemed to be going well, too well. And then, something terrible happened. One day, I was having a slump while trying to compose my first song at home, so I surfed the internet for a bit, hoping to find some inspiration. Then suddenly, I saw my name trending on Twitter, so I quickly clicked on one article. The article said that I was a rude and disrespectful girl. What? They even confirmed that the news was revealed by a veteran actor in the showbiz world, but no name was given. Could it have been that actor guy from the audition? Surely, the fact that Eric suddenly pulled me away had irritated him, but he turned out to be not much of a decent guy either. And the problem is that in Hollywood, rumors have a way of sticking. As a result, a few of my advertising contracts were canceled, and so were some of our gigs. One teen magazine even called the office to tell us that they wouldn't publish my interview anymore, as I was a bad influence on their young readers. It was so embarrassing. I was struggling, but our company too had a hard time dealing with this scandal. I felt guilty, as it could affect the entire company's image, but both Dean and Phil reassured me that it would pass, and that malicious rumors came with the fame. I tried to stay strong and believe it would blow over, but then my anti-fan base grew. There were forums and hate clubs all about me. You know, even if you read 1,000 compliments, that one negative comment is the only thing that's left on your mind. I tried not to read them, but they were everywhere, saying horrible stuff about my singing, my outfits, and the way I look. One afternoon, I was lying in bed thinking, when suddenly I heard the doorbell. I feared that it was one of the anti-fans who'd come to throw paint on me or something. I peeked through the peephole and saw Eric standing there with a big hat and sunglasses. OMG! What was he doing here? I quickly opened the door and nervously looked around, then hissed at him. Eric, what are you doing here? Someone might spot you. He replied,
Haley, you're the most important person in my life. I'd trade it all for you.
His kind words made me so happy. That day, Eric cooked me a delicious meal. Then he taught me how to deal with haters and ignore the comments. I thought I was the luckiest girl in the world. But unfortunately, everything didn't stop there.